Bienvenidos. Today I'm going to go over a couple things that might help you understand native Nicaraguans when they speak Spanish. If you've ever heard a Nicaraguan speak just normal, fast-paced, you know that, especially as a Spanish learner, they are kind of hard to understand.
No me acuerdo si los jueves que no estaba, pero no sé. Siempre que íbamos al aeropuerto, cuando un familiar de nosotros llegaba a Estados Unidos a Nicaragua. Bueno, lo otro es cualquiera que tenga dulces o otro tipo de dulces que me pueda mandar a mi casa. Son bienvenidos.
And I've even talked to some people who are like pretty good at Spanish, maybe have grown up with it or whatever, and there's still certain things that they're like, ¿qué está diciendo? So first of all, I must say, the very best thing you can do is just practice listening to Nicaraguan Spanish speakers. I have a lot of videos where Tomas is speaking his normal Spanish. If you want to check those out, maybe I should make a playlist that's like Nica Spanish or something. Because nothing can beat actual just like listening to, that Nica Spanish. Of course, also if you know anyone who speaks Nicaraguan Spanish or is a Nicaraguan, most likely, are the only people that really speak Nicaraguan Spanish, except I do, I guess, too, but kind of. He's just staring at me. Hey. Yeah, if you can speak with native Nicaraguan Spanish speakers and just tell them, can you slow down a little bit? That will help you to understand, but I realize that's not really. First of all, it's really hard. If you think of yourself speaking English, it's really hard to actually slow down and enunciate more and really pay attention to what you're saying, especially when you get really passionate about what you're talking about. You just blah, 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 blah. So that's pretty much the very best you can get as far as learning to understand them. But I have a few more little things that I think might also help you to get an understanding of the way they actually speak and therefore maybe figure out more of what they're saying.
Después. Sí, son hechos de maíz, de masa, de maíz.
So one thing that's pretty obvious to me is they skip S's at the end of words. Really, they skip a lot of syllables and actually blend down 3-syllable words into 2 syllables or things like that. But when they want to say es, like es, meaning is, they usually say e. You're gonna hear like que eso. Que es eso? They'll say que eso. Even sometimes in a word like escrito, they might say escrito.
No te sabría decir exactamente porque nunca lo he escrito.
Another example is ¿qué vas a hacer? They would say ¿qué va a hacer? Or it might just sound like ¿qué va a hacer? Another thing the Nicas do is add ito to so many words. Poco, they say poquito. Cosa, they say cosita. A la vuelta, they say a la vueltecita. Flor, they say florcita. Bebé, bebecito. Chavalo, chavalito. Pretty much for everything. So watch out for words that they're adding ito to. This might be common for other Spanish-speaking countries as well, but they definitely do it a lot in Nicaragua. They'll also skip over the D, the letter D in words. For example, the word dedo, they'll say dedo. How can I explain this? It's like they're saying a TH sound instead of a D. Like, for example, the word dedo, they would say like day, it's like a dedo, but they're just kind of skipping it so much that it's just like barely touching that sound, like dedo. Like it's almost like they're just taking out the D and it's de-o, deo. Except, no, it's not quite like that. It's like deo. If you watched our video about Nicaraguan treats, there's this word that kept coming up, atado de dulce, and I was trying to pronounce it correctly, and so I was saying atado de dulce. But no, if you listen to how Tomas says it.
Con atado dulce, creo que lo endulzan. Atado dulce.
Atado de dulce. Atado.
Atado dulce.
So yeah, these, who cares about them? Let's not use the D's, nah. Another thing they do, which I believe we do pretty much in every language, in every country, I don't know. There are some people that really enunciate every word and every syllable that they say, pero los nicas, as I put the example before, que va a hacer, wherever there are letters that are similar together, it's all blended into one. So va a hacer, the end of va is an a sound. The word a is an a sound. The beginning of hacer is an a sound. So why would you pronounce a 3 times in a row? Why don't you say que va a ser? You hear what I'm saying? Just blend those all into one. Why would you waste your breath on saying que va a hacer? Like que va a ser? If you say he escrito, he ends with the a sound and escrito begins with the a sound. So again, make it into one. Don't make any separation between e and escrito. So it sounds like one word, escrito. I think in some cases you would hear barely a separation in there, like he escrito, escrito.
Nunca he escrito bien me sabe. No sé si es bien me sabe. Nunca he escrito.
Yeah, I don't know. If they're just talking in the middle of everything and they just happen to say escrito, it's like escrito.
Ok, vamos al siguiente.
Hi, I'm editing and I forgot to say that they put the H sound in front of A sounds where there is no H in the word, or J because H's are silent. But when he says vamos al siguiente, he says vamos al siguiente. You'll notice here. Just pay attention.
Ok, vamos al siguiente. Ok, vamos al siguiente.
A lot of what Nicaraguans say you have to take from the context of the words around them, because let's just say they like to save their breath. So on that same note, the subjects of the sentences like yo, tú, which they usually use vos instead of tú, él, ella, usted. Well, usted is usually used because if you're being formal, you need to be formal, right? And then nosotros and ellos and ustedes. These are basically throughout Spanish, the entire Spanish language. It's redundant anyway, because if I'm saying yo quiero, that's like saying I want.
Exactamente de qué están hechos, no sé.
So I could just say quiero, and that just means I want. So what's the point of saying yo quiero if quiero means the same thing, right?
Creo que son hechos de maíz.
Only in cases where you really want to make sure you're getting the point across, or you're being super specific, enunciated. You're trying to put pressure, information, obvious. You're trying to put, oh my goodness. You're trying to put emphasis. When you're trying to put emphasis on something. So if you're telling somebody quiero pastel and they say ¿Cómo? Ella quiere pastel. And you say no, yo quiero pastel. You would say that if you really want to emphasize what you're saying.
Pero vamos a ver cuándo.
Los nicaragüenses, they just like to speed through words, skip as many syllables as possible, blend everything together, and my Nicaraguan slang video, you can check it out here or here, because there's 2 of them, and I probably should make another one because there's more words that I haven't yet mentioned. You know, I don't really want to go putting out those bad words, which is a lot of Nica slang. So I hope this helps a little bit. I don't really know what else to say about Nicaraguan Spanish. You just need to practice listening to it, and maybe listening to it with subtitles will help you, because too bad there's not like real time subtitles, like as somebody's talking they just spew out words that
Me imagino que llevan como canela. En Nicaragua son más fáciles de pelar porque hace calor. Entonces, si alguien sabe que está hecha la leche burra, bueno, me imagino que de leche, pero no de burra. Tendremos que ver cómo se hacen y podemos tratar de hacer. Ves pasar a alguien y la gente dice ¡bien me sabe! ¡Va a creer! Y sabe cómo se hace el caramelo dulce, nos puede decir porque no tengo idea. Me imagino que lleva azúcar, pero no sé qué más. Solo para que sepan un poquito del tipo de... Me pican las patas para ir a Nicaragua, les cuento. Cuando se da la oportunidad de poder ir. Pero bueno, espero que les guste y sigan disfrutando de los dulces de Nicaragua, que son bien ricos.
Thanks for watching. Hasta la próxima. Bye.